women, weapons over and over again. It's disturbing and far from bliss, and each and every child is emotionally affected by this. I think it's time we bring the dark to the light, to stop the 911 calls in the middle of the night. So I'm reaching out, and I hope it's worth my while. It's erasing the bond between man, woman, and child.
Domestic violence, it has to stop. The kids are crying, it's coming down like raindrops. It's a behavior we can't condone. It's breaking up our happy homes. Let's get it together, talk about it, and let them know that they're not alone. Domestic violence, it has to stop. The kids are crying, it's coming down like raindrops. It's a behavior we can't condone. It's breaking up our happy homes. Let's get it together, talk about it, and let them know that they're not alone.
Stop and think about it. This is your significant other. Why would you want your son to see you put your hands on his mother? Leaving little man shook. It's really a bad look. How you supposed to concentrate and keep his head in the book? How's your daughter supposed to look up to dad? Don't you know that you're the first male role model she's ever had? The saying goes, a woman wants a man like a father. So what you telling her? To accept this from a man? You gotta watch how you talk to whoever you with. Words hurt, people forgive but never forget. I guess it's up to a teen to teach these things. It's just my expression of how YMC's sting. Seek a shelter from mayhem, they won't doubt you. And there's all types of programs to reach out to. No need to feel ashamed, cause it's not your fault. And this evil way of living has to come to a halt.
Domestic violence, it has to stop. The kids are crying, it's coming down like raindrops. It's a behavior we can't condone. It's breaking up our happy homes. Let's get it together, talk about it, and let them know that they're not alone. Domestic violence, it has to stop. The kids are crying, it's coming down like raindrops. It's a behavior we can't condone. It's breaking up our happy homes. Let's get it together, talk about it, and let them know that they're not alone.
Peace and love, everybody. Thank you for chiming in. This is the Expert Education Corner with me, Queenafi. And we are back for another monthly session, to get that conversation started up. That's what we do. We have great conversation, and we try to put a positive word out there for our people. Every opportunity, I'm grateful to be able to come on and share and, talk about that dinner table conversation and what that needs to look like in terms of everybody feeling like they have a voice at the dinner table. We want everybody to feel like they are welcome. We want everybody to feel like that their dinner tables are a safe space to be able to share concerns, address concerns, and talk about, what it means to open up about mental health, to open up about domestic violence, and those many tags that it wears. And of course, domestic violence wears many tags, okay, all day long. Y'all, the tags is not a joke. And we must just make sure that we're serious about, everything that we are trying to do at our dinner tables. And the dinner table can be used as a metaphor. It can be used to take out on the road. It could be used to take with you to your personal dinner tables. It could be used to take with you to driving that child to college. It could be used to taking a road trip. Did I say that already? Flying the airplane. Those little moments that you can get to be able to share with your loved ones about hey, well, check this out, everybody, and make it such an enlightening conversation so that they're learning right at the dinner table. And like I always tell the community, you can send your children to me, you can send your loved ones to me all day, every day, but that's not going to fix the fact that therapy starts at your dinner table. Those sessions really start at your dinner table. And they should start young, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we wanted to, make sure that we're opening up that conversation for people to begin to speak about how they feel and how they are in terms of mental health. Guess what? Do your check-ins. Do your check-ins. Make sure you are just checking in on that person. This is not about me checking in to get in your business, to mind your business, to even care about your business. What we need to care about when we do those wellness check-ins is just, how are you doing? Are you okay? I just wanted to reach out and let you know, I'm here. I got most of the resources that you think you might need if you're going through something. Reach out to me and I'll be glad to assist. See, simple as that. That's your wellness check in with your children, husband and wives, boyfriend and girlfriends, my teen couples. Y'all got to get better at communicating your feelings, and really understanding that your girlfriend or your boyfriend might just need a check-in, and stop picking up the phone to be negative to one another. And y'all talking about y'all in a relationship and y'all love and care about each other. Then you have to demonstrate through empathy, encouragement, through education, that we care about one another at our dinner tables. All right. And the dinner table conversation can happen in your spiritual realm, whatever that may be. The dinner table conversation can happen when you're doing yoga. Everybody check in. What's your word for today? Everybody get a word out there. And today I'll start with me. My word today is going to be, dang, I have so many. But my word today is going to be Lulu. And Lulu is one of my favorite words because it is a word that appreciates the category to which you're growing in. So whereas me, I want to grow more in the mental health community. I want to grow more in terms of having this conversation, making domestic violence and mental health two very popular dinner table conversations. And with that, it comes, awards. It comes a lot of gratitude. It comes a lot of gratefulness. And so Lulu is one of those high categories that you can fit into with your professional life. So that's one of my favorite words that that I've learned, and also that I like to use. One other thing is, I was out in the community. I sat on a panel with my young people, and I had one young lady who was interested in talking about mental health with her peers. That is something that she wanted to take on as one of her causes in the world. And I showed her. I said, baby girl, let me say something to you. Check this out. All my words. I roll around with at least 100 words on me. And I said, baby girl, y'all don't be knowing the words. You don't be knowing the words to match with the feelings. You see, feelings match words. Words match feelings. And we be so scared to chime into the words that we just say, I'm good. I'm straight. I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm making it another day. I'm going to keep on holding on. No, what are the words to match those feelings? And a lot of times when I go in and talk to my young people, they don't know the words. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent. They don't know the words. So we got to get better at making sure that we are putting the words out there on the table. If you catch me out in the community doing my vending table, I got words on it. I have a slew of words on there, okay? Because we have to start taking those words and matching them to our feelings so that the prefrontal cortex can start to give you definition and help you iron those things out within you, within your mental health help you iron those things out and come to a place where you say, you know what, I'm so happy I learned that word. I'm just so happy that I picked up a new word to match my feelings. And I'm trying to tell you, the words will help you grow. The words will help you become confident. The words will give you, you say nobody don't have your back. The words will have your back. I'm trying to tell you, I promise you, the words will have your back. So if you want to get into the classroom with me, of course, you definitely can do that. Reach out, serious inquiries only, 202-920-9101, 9101. It's always a pleasure to get you all in the classroom, with me, where we can focus in on those things that may be troubling you in terms of your mental health, your emotional health, and your verbal health. Right? We can chop those things down and learn about those many tags of domestic violence: verbal abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse, and physical abuse. When you come into the classroom, trust me, you're going to love the energy that I provide to you in those sessions. You're going to love having that safe space for yourself, because a lot of times people around you can't comprehend, don't understand. So for you to have that safe space, it's an amazing feeling. It is an amazing feeling. I promise you. Okay, so let's jump into the lesson. Live and kicking, and let's jump into the lesson today. Guess what? Guess what we doing? I'm sorry. We are doing Mental Health World Ego Awareness Day. This topic was interesting because let me put it back up here. I don't know what happened just now. It's not crazy sometimes. Hold on, sweets. Thank you. This topic was so amazing to me when I went, saying, what could we talk about, governing mental health this month? And I've heard nobody talk about World Ego Awareness Day, which is actually May the 11th. So I'm right on schedule with being able to talk about this and still link it back to the actual day. May 11th is World Ego Awareness Day. Like, you have never heard your parents sit you down and say, let's talk about World Ego Day. Come on, nah. I know better than that. Yes, I do. I know better than that. Let's dive right into it. About ego, right? Ego is just a small 3-letter word which can destroy a big 12-letter word called relationship. All right, and that's from one of our IG inspirational people who are on there talking about ego. I grabbed the quote. The ego is a primal function of the mind that has developed over the course of human history for the main purpose of survival. The word ego is a Greek word that means I, a distinct sense of individuality. This is how our ego starts to develop. It is the creation of the version of ourselves that we believe to be true and how we perceive the world. Okay, let me jump into it. Let me jump right into it. Okay, what are the ego behaviors? Some common behaviors to recognize when an ego is present are judgment, blame, worry, fear, closed-mindedness, stubbornness, and selfishness. And some of us are that. We have these ego behaviors just on a daily basis. We struggle with these behaviors. And you may not necessarily say, well, is it my ego? What am I going through here? What are we talking about here when we talk about in terms of the ego? So this is another way to, kind of be able to self-regulate yourself, because the ego is a very real part of our emotional, our mental health. Is our ego our identity? Is it your identity? The ego as the part of the mind that mandates between the conscious and the unconscious and is responsible for reality testing and a sense of personal identity. So part of you, you know, your ego is your personal identity. I'm wondering, so what makes you unique? Could that be linked back to you being a unique person and maybe not egotistic, you know, or egocentric, as we would say? So what it, you know, what is it linked to? Are you conscious of, you know, your ego identity, or you know, are you unconscious about your ego identity? Because the purpose of the dinner table conversation is to bring everything to the front of your brain, bring it to the front of your prefrontal cortex so you can begin to discern, you know, am I having sort of an ego trip here? Or am I just a unique person? And do I truly identify with my ego? Right. And where that sort of fits into my life. I know most times, every time we see somebody, you know, we say they ego trip. You know, I don't think every time somebody's ego tripping, I really don't. I think there's certain characteristics, again, that can lead you to a space where you say this person, oh, this person is really ego tripping, like literally. So I think it shows up in different spaces and places. And I also think that maybe sometimes we're conscious of it and maybe sometimes we're not. But I know one thing, your parents and your grandmama and them did not sit you down. Your spiritual environment didn't sit you down and say, let's talk about World Ego Day. I know they did. Egocentric, ego trip, right? A journey to nowhere. And that is what Forbes is saying, that when you're ego tripping, you're going nowhere fast. The ego is the inability to differentiate between self and others, right? So how do we identify though? Because even I want to know from you students, how do we, scholars out there, how do we you know, really place that into our lives to where we don't seem like we're, you know, selfish or stubborn or trying to be judgmental or seemingly to be better than somebody else. And yes, I'm wearing my mental health colors today, as well as my colors for domestic violence, because I'm doing a shout out for all my people out there who, yes, who is on top of your situation, you on top of asking your questions, you on top of trying to identify with your emotional intelligence. You want better for yourself. So the colors make us, you know, feel confident. And it's not an ego thing. Sometimes you can wear the colors and your shoulders get broader and your conversation becomes a mouth-to-mouth conversation and not a mouth-to-head conversation because your neck is always in your chest. So the colors actually make you rise up and look into that thing and say, you know what? Wow, you know, I'm so happy to be a survivor of, you know, or I'm so happy to be able to come to grips with someone who truly understands my pitfalls in terms of my mental health, in terms of something like domestic violence. So it's amazing, okay, to be able to do this. All right. I left that slide up there. Let's move right along in our education. Pleasure principle. I don't want it to end. And so, as every therapist knows, the ego does not want an end to its problems because they are part of its identity. And that is from another person who, Tolley, Mr. Tolley, who put his conversation out there in terms of, you know, ego. So he put his quote out there about, and I thought the quote was very interesting because it says that therapist knows, as every therapist knows, the ego does not want an end to its problem because they are part of its identity. So is your ego a part of your problems and your identity? That's what I'm taking from what he's suggesting here in his quote, right? So Sigmund developed what? ID. During early childhood, the ID controls the majority of the behavior. That's where I feel like in childhood, we're starting to identify with who we are. We're starting to understand those commands. We're starting to learn our name. We're starting to learn some of the family black. We're starting to talk to our children about their body parts. We're starting to talk to your children about, who they are on the inside. You are great. That's why we always affirm to children, good job. I'm so happy that you were able to do that. We are getting them able to identify with who they are and who they are destined to be in childhood. We must do that in childhood. Moving forward, the ego, as children mature, right? The ego develops to help control the urges of the ID, right? The ego is concerned with reality. It helps ensure that the ID's needs are met, but in ways that are acceptable in the real world. So we're giving them humility. We're giving them grace. Because there's a lot of people who say, I need to give grace over this situation. I've been saying that a lot. A lot of people have been saying, I need to give grace over this situation. And so grace move sort of the ego thing or help control the ego portion as children mature? Is that what we're saying when we say, look, I want to give this person grace, or I want to give this situation grace, especially when you're talking of a negative conversation or, things with negative content. You say, look, I want to give this person grace as opposed to your potential ego getting in there and maybe tripping out, right? But let's go back for a minute. Let's say you get in there and you ego tripping. Is that what you were taught in childhood? Is that your ID? Is that your identity? Is that what the people at your dinner table gave you? Is that what your brain sponged up as a child? You see what I mean? Because now life is going to get harder for you because your ID, depending on the right identity, okay, it can last you through adolescence, through adulthood, and you have these struggles with being selfish. You have these struggles with being judgmental. You have these struggles with being critical towards yourself and others. So what are we teaching our young children about their identity at our dinner tables? Are we giving them words to feeling? Okay, are we matching them on that? And I'm gonna tell you something that I want to throw out there in terms of the ego piece, right? And there's research that the ego piece has been linked to coaches, athletic coaches. And they sort of came around and summarized it with sort of the tough love, because the players started speaking out about how their coaches were talking to them about, their love of football. Some examples are, you're dumb, you throwing the football like a girl, you ain't no X, Y, and Z. You need to pick yourself up because, tomorrow ain't promised to you. And I'm telling you, I've heard some coaches say some nasty things out there on that field. I have 2 sons, okay? And I'm out there with my children because I don't want the coaches talking to my sons any kind of way and trying to trip up their ego, because the coach's ego is seemingly tripping up. That could be male or female coaches, right? So I want to say to all my coaches out there who are on the field, you got to realize that tough love don't work out here. Tough love don't work nowhere, because tough is in one part of the dictionary and love is in another. And they mean 2 different things. How they come together is the corrupt minds of people. I don't know, but they don't go together, right? Full-blown world, get your dictionary right now. They don't go together, all right? And a coach just recently told the little boy, you can get off my field because you will never throw the football like that on my field. What the F you think this is? Oh my God, it broke my heart. And I want to pray and ask God to help me say something to this coach in a way that he can understand that a tough love through many research dissertations at this point, colleges, universities, professors, psychiatrists, mental health professionals, social workers, is not working. It will never work. And in fact, research has showed that it depresses children and it seeps them into dark spaces. So, to all my coaches out there and life coaches, you got life coaches out there, you got athletic coaches out there, you got your spiritual coaches out there, you know, you got your volleyball coaches out there, you got your financial coaches out there. We need to understand that we need to make sure that we're not ego tripping, you know, and letting that spill out onto these people that we really do love and want to see them do better. Okay. I just had to get that off my chest because coaches are doing this mess out here. They're doing it. Okay. So we want to make sure that we are clear on, you know, the idea of our children and putting in perspective with their ego. So I feel like if the child can identify with healthy emotional intelligence, then the child will know how to man their ego as they mature. And so it won't look like an ego necessarily. It will look more like forgiveness. It will look more like grace. It will look more like what's another word out there that I just used? More like humility. Okay. That's the route that we want to go in terms of our ID, ego, and superego. Superego incorporates the values and morals of society, which are learned from one's parents and others. So that safe space that is around the children, that is around the young people at that dinner table, you know, we are the superego people that help them identify with their morals and values and everything that they want to do in society, right? So all three of those collectively go together, considering that we will develop a well-based, well-rounded individual to go out into the world and do great things. All right. The effects of the pleasant principles. So, you know, of course, there could be some effects to everything that we do in life. And, you know, some of it is to avoid pain. Some of the ego tripping stuff is to avoid pain, you know, is to avoid the things that they've been through, a child had been through, or adolescent or an adult had been through. You know, you put your ego out in front, and yeah, you lead with that. Because you can't, you put that, you know, when people say they put their wall up, they putting their ego up, you know, and you lead with that, and you go out into the world with these corrupt behaviors because you really do have pain in whatever you may have experienced that could have traumatized your ID, your ego, and could have traumatized the superego, your environment, you know, and the people that are around you who are coaching you. So we got to be very sympathetic and empathetic to someone who we know they put their wall up. You know, there are strategies to getting them to put the wall down, and it's not having our ego rise up to another person whose ego rise up, because now we just got two people who are egocentric and they don't know which way they're going. Just like the quote said, the problem never ends, you know, and we just want everybody to have their ego in perspective and understand, you know, moving forward, what that can look like. So if you're going through something, if you have emotional pain, if you have experienced, you know, trauma, if you have experienced grief, the death of a child, the death of a loved one, the loss of a job, you know, retirement, you're not there anymore, the loneliness that, you know, people can feel throughout their life can cause them to put up that ego wall. All right, because that's what most times that's what it's linked back to, and it is simply to just avoid some of the traumatic things that have happened in people's lives and things that are happening at our dinner tables that we are afraid to talk about. And at the end of the day, we got to get better at talking about it. Now, I wonder within that addiction may lead people to seek pleasures regardless of negative consequences, right? So even though it's linked back to possible pain, I was wondering, does addiction rise up the ego in a person and make them feel immortal, so to speak? And I feel like it can, which is where, you know, the negative consequences come in. And then the other thing with an addiction and the ego, it can give you that boost that you feel like you are inferior to the world. You feel like you can do anything because that addiction rises up your ego identity in you, and it leads to negative consequences because the brain is not associating things appropriately in the prefrontal cortex. And so addiction is one of those things where you have to get it treated. You know, you have to treat your addiction in order to really come into a space where you understand your identity as well as you understand your ego, right? So you have to definitely treat your addiction, all right, to start identifying with your ego and remembering some of those things at the dinner table, remembering things that can link you back to the ID, to the ego, and bring yourself forward in that, you know. So sort of confronting the trauma, sober, and not using any substance, including food, shopping. What's some of them we do? Of course we do drinking. Of course we do smoking. Of course we take pills. Those are regular ones. Sex addiction. These things can have a negative consequence on you because the ego is in full-blown I don't care mode. And it's selfish, it's inconsiderate, it's judgmental, it's blaming, it criticizes, like, and it makes you feel damn about yourself. Because when you come down off that high, and people are dying on fentanyl these days, so you're not even coming down off of a high. And then our young people out here accepting stuff, they accepting drugs behind one another because they don't have the money to get high, so they accept what somebody going to give them, and it can ultimately kill them. They're smoking behind each other. They're taking pills, you know, these same pills and things. They drink behind you. And these things are starting to have fentanyl in, right? And so we got to be very careful about that. We also got to be very careful about, you know, our food, because it ain't, if you could sprinkle it in my drink, you could put it in my food and I could die. You see what I mean? So we got to be very careful about, you know, addiction and the things that we get into that can lead us to negative consequences, right? Okay, poor decisions. In some instances, people may make poor decisions based on a desire for immediate pleasure rather than making a better choice that results in a more favorable long-term reward. Long-term reward. So yes. People with mental health issues, people, of course, with domestic violence issues, people with low self-esteem issues, my brothers and sisters out there who are battling with eating disorder and body image issues, my brothers and sisters who are battling with addiction, my brothers and sisters who are just battling with, you know, not knowing who they are, not knowing the ID, not understanding their ego. It leads them to make horrible decisions. And I know this because I've done it myself. It leads you to make horrible decisions. And those decisions end up affecting your long term. And as you get older, you understand you don't have as much time as you thought you did to make up for it. Is the sky the limit every day? Yes, it is. But when you have constantly made poor decisions, right, to hide behind that ego wall, then guess what? It's going to take you longer to come back, right? And in the interim, you're getting older. So you don't have as much time as you think you do, right? So we got to be zoomed into, you know, doing what we need to do to start taking care of our egos and start taking care of our mental health in terms of what we want to see within ourselves, the healthier self, the heal thyself perspective. Okay. I had to stop and halt on that one for a minute because the pleasure principles are really interesting when we talk about this conversation in the ego and how that sort of plays out long term in our life, and how how I deal with it on a daily basis, where people are making poor decisions and they're doing it young. I've done it. I've made poor decisions very young that have cost me today things in my life that I wish. That's when you hear people say, I wish I could turn back the hands of time. I wish I can go back and do this thing all over again. You ask that question, so if you could redo your life, what would you do different? I'm trying to tell you, all of us will have so many things that we would do differently to stay out of the poor decision bracket, because we have been emotionally scarred with words, with corrupt action and behavior, with those many tags: verbal abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, right? Have caused us to make poor decisions for our life. And yes, thank God there's so many places that are, and so many people. I know I am on the front line having the conversation about domestic violence and mental health. I'm trying to tell you, and there's a slew of other people who are on the front line having this conversation, because we know that there is a better way at this point. I'm smart enough to know that, like I tell y'all, the trauma breeds apologies. All we got to do is apologize for hurting our loved ones or hurting each other and saying things that are inappropriate and not being empathetic towards what we feel like that person is going through, or what we feel like we may have done to that person. Abusers have got to come forth and start being more empathetic about the pain that they have caused somebody else. They've also got to understand and come forward. Women and men abusers have got to come forward and start identifying with themselves and understanding that covering up the trauma is not making it better in their life. And those abusers have killed people that they so-called love, right? So what's conflicting about your mind? It's like, so the ego just took over you. You just, your ego wall just got you in a hole, that you didn't got 155 years. You're never coming out to see the light of day again. What poor decisions that were linked to what addictive behaviors, what your impulsivity, what was that? Your maladaptive behaviors, what are those that got you here to the point that you have 155 years and you're never coming home? Right? You're going to get buried in a jail cemetery, or they're going to send your body back in a body bag to your family. What was those poor decisions? Okay. We got to start getting better. And I've done focus sessions in the classroom just on decision-making skills. Learning how to discern decisions, learning how to stay on your no, to identify with your no, love your no, be secure in your no, right? And don't ever have a problem with telling yourself no, because guess what? The pleasure principles are real. Okay, let's move forward. The ego needs a balance to coincide within your identity. And that's Queen saying that. And we moving into the moral psychology of it all. I don't want, oh, did I put the same one? I left the same one up here. I thought this was a different one. But this is still a good quote. I don't want it to end. And so, as every therapist knows, the ego does not want an end to its problems because they are part of its identity. It's actually a very good quote. I meant to put another one up there. But that's all right, students. We live and kicking it today. The PowerPoints to think about. What does your ego and cheating You know, how does that come together? I thought that was very interesting. In surveys of individuals who have cheated, falling out of love, seeking variety, and feeling neglected were the most commonly cited reasons, followed by situational forces, a desire to raise your self esteem, and anger with the partner, or those things that your ego just take over in a situation, you know, and you end up making poor decisions, and you end up getting into things that you wish you could turn back the clock. Okay. Even if it's just for 40 minutes to an hour, you wish you could turn back the clock because you done already done something that you didn't have no business doing. You have already acted upon that ego wall because your partner or your spouse may have made you feel a certain kind of way. And so your ego tell you to go see it outside the house. Well, if they can't fulfill my needs, somebody will. Oh, when people say that, oh my goodness, it is so unintelligent to say that. No, 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 no. That's and you talking about calling yourself being in a healthy relationship, voicing that to someone, to your partner, to the person that you say you love. You voice that, but you say you in a healthy relationship. I beg to differ. What is the ego mind? It is the part of the mind that says I, which is most popular, which is most popularly wrapped into a negative connotation of self-importance. Right. So that's that wall, that ego wall again that says, this my way and I'm gonna be able to do it my way. And so they say, if it's not my way, it's the highway. We say those things, and could that be linked back to us ego tripping? Could it be that ego wall that we've been hurt so many times, and so now we build up that ego wall and says, you know what, it's just a negative connotation with everything with this person, male or female. It's just a negative connotation with everything with this person. You see what I mean? So my question would be is, why is that wall up? I go back to that. Why is the wall up? What are the 7 types of ego? Selfish, rebellious, critical, enabling. Oh, enabling is a vicious one. Enabling is a vicious one. We got so many parents out here. We got so many spouses, girlfriends, and boyfriends who, and we got brothers and sisters who enable their siblings to do whatever, to be selfish, to be inconsiderate, to literally be ego tripping, have a strong wall up that is unbreakable. Because as Mr. Toller said in his quote, that the ego don't want the problems to end. It doesn't. So, and then we have people who fit into that with us. You know, we know how ego people know how to manipulate the situation and make their family enable and trip with them, and ego trip with them. And so you end up giving in to their ego. You end up giving into their ego, right? And then you say you upset and you beating yourself. I should have never did that. I told myself that I wasn't going to do it again. I should have never. Now you the person that I want to talk to. That's who I want to talk to. That enabler. Because the enablers out here today, ooh wee, you letting the folk get away with murder at your dinner table, looking at you, talking about I love you, I want to be with you, we together forever. And on the back end, they got vicious egotistical behavior. Okay? You better think about that. People are reckless and demanding. They try to have fun without thinking of the consequences. And so, yeah, I'm gonna have fun letting you enable me. That's gonna be my fun. I'm gonna let you just keep enabling me. And in the meantime, in between time, I'm gonna make poor decisions and be addicted, be impulsive, and have maladaptive behaviors that I don't care what nobody thinks. Blake, you're too loud. I don't care what anyone thinks at this point. You know, so we got to be cautious of the ego wall, because the ego in you should really look like humility, empathy, encouragement, right? Where you can sit down and address, that person's concerns, and where you can sit down and confront the trauma, right? You ready to tear down that ego wall. When you ready to sit down and confront your trauma, you are literally ready to tear down that ego wall and begin to say, I don't have this all under control. I don't have it under control. And Queen, I want to go back from square one and find out, in terms of my ego, what is my identity? And how can I begin to let, as I mature, how can I, as I'm getting better, because if I could go back and be 7 again, 8, 9, 10, and me and my parents would have been sitting there talking about the ego, having this dinner table conversation right here. Let me tell you something. Some things would have been a lot different. And I love my parents. They are amazing, mom and dad. You know that. Moms and dads are just amazing people. And parenting don't come with no handbook like we always talk about. Parenting does not come with a handbook. And, for those of us who were raised by, parents that was from the South, I mean, it was just traumatizing. It was traumatizing. A lot of it was traumatizing experiences for many different cultures. Even if the Holocaust was a traumatic experience. My God, the Nazi brother Hitler, I mean, his ego was on blast. I mean, full-blown blast. Full-blown. He did not care. He had no empathy. He had no sympathy. He had no caring. He had no love. He had no trust. He was just breaking people down to their lowest terms so he can build his ego up. And guess what? And still be talked about all these many years later for being corrupt. Come on now, somebody. This stuff is spread throughout different cultures. It's not just in the African American community. It is spread out. Donald Trump is having his whole ego tripping thing that he really believes that all the stuff that he's done, the government is bringing him up. And he really believes that he's mentally and emotionally okay. His ego is completely in the way. He has a ego wall that, let me tell you something, not even his children has been able to tear down or has been able to touch. And it's so bad that it's so bad for him. It's so bad for him that he makes poor decisions and he's very impulsive. Okay. And he's addicted to the ego in him and how he get to move and operate and greed, and having millions and millions of dollars on top of the ego. Oh my God. Woo, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. It's a whole disaster. Okay. That's 2 people right there. I'm sure y'all know some more brothers and sisters that's right at your house or right close to you. You probably get ready to go sit in front of the daggone space and place and meet the ego person who you looking at like, what is his or her problem? Pastor Keon, Shaquille O'Neal's husband. All right. Just did a service with a woman and she was in there saying, she was saying, we don't know. Maybe she was having her praise time with God. We don't know. But he goes over and snap his fingers. Oh, to me, how are you calm in the spirit? How is that in decency and in order when you go over and snap your finger to a woman? Shut the noise. Calm down. Calm down. This is what you doing to a woman who could potentially be in a spiritual battle or crying out to God for help, for her ego. Okay, you snapped your fingers. That's the part that I didn't like. The behavior when he snapped his fingers, nah, that had nothing to do with him talking about he was having problems with her for 4 years. He went and sat down and told Tamara Hall that he was having problems with her for 4 years. And so, okay, in a live broadcast, you decide to snap your fingers to a grown woman. Oh, no. To me, that had everything to do with his ego. Okay. I saw another video of him that Shawnee put out Shaquille O'Neal's ex-wife, put out. And it was her and the children, and they was all eating breakfast or whatever. And so they did a little, jumped up and did a little dance and was just, walking around, her and the children, trying to get a rise out of this guy. He just sat there. Unbeknownst to everybody else, I'm looking in. He just sat there while they was pouring out the positive energy. This guy has some things with him that he need to iron out in secret. You see, because something is off. And my thing is, I would like to hear from the young lady who he was snapping his fingers at, because he felt like he'd been having problems with her for 4 years. If you having problems with her for 4 years, right? How is she up on the stage in the live broadcast and you got to snap your fingers at her because she's praising God and you feel like she's not praising God? To me, he was ego tripping. And to me, he has a wall up. There's not very much about his history and that I've seen, that I've seen. Okay, I'm gonna give y'all one more. It was the pastor or the bishop who was in New York, and he got robbed at his little church. He got robbed at his church, right? And he was heated about that. Okay, but then they showed another video where it was a woman walking around in his sanctuary saying things and hallelujah. And I don't know if she was saying, you're not going to do this to me. I don't know if she was saying you're a liar to him or whatever. But he proceeded to grab her by her neck. Okay. He was ego. I mean, the ego just went full blast on this woman. And come to find out, that bishop had corruptive behavior. He has been stealing from people for years, which is why we don't see him no more. We don't see him no more. He ain't on the internet no more, right? Because he's somewhere trying to fight these cases, all right? Because he embezzled money. So, it has a way, again, of hiding pain. Just like Sigmund Freud said that it can hide the pain. So we proceed to have that ego wall up, but behind that wall, that brick stone wall, is pain that needs to be chopped down and brought down. All right. Moving along, let me throw my last tips out as we come to a close. How does ego affect your mental health? The ego can influence your mental health and relationships, and it does. Refusal to accept failure, denial of pain or fear, like we talked about just now, hide mistakes and weaknesses. You be hiding this stuff. You be sugarcoating it. You be sweeping it up. You be enabling it. You be covering up. You be putting your mask on, putting the wall up. I mean, you got a mask, you got a wall. You ain't supposed to be having no double dealings in your life. When you one way in the public, and then behind closed doors, you a whole nother person that your family don't even understand who you are and how you get up every day and put your clothes on and go out and fake and be somebody else, because that ego wall will make you do it. It's strong enough to make you do it when you have not been taught in the very early stages of childhood about your ID and everything that you should identify within you, and being a healthy person for yourself so you can be a healthy person for others. And instead, when your ego want to kick in, you know how to say, you know what, let me bring myself back down and let me really truly listen to what my family member or my loved one or, my friend or my boss or my children are trying to say to me, right? You put yourself more in that position as opposed to, can't nobody tell me what to do. I fed you. I put clothes on your back. Oh, no. Now you going into the ego space. And that's a space that we don't want to go into. All right. A person's sense of importance and confidence can become inflated and threatens the relationship and work performance. So it threatens your entire life when it's inflated like that. And it doesn't make you a healthy individual. It makes you more unhealthy, from a mental standpoint, because you've always got to make sure you have that wall up. It takes a lot of work and energy to constantly make sure that you have this wall up. So we got to be mindful of these things, right? I want us to make sure that we're being mindful of these things, and that we can talk about these things. Amen, Angel. Thank you for chiming in, sis. All right, chiming into that conversation tonight, which, by the way, is a beautiful conversation, brothers and sisters. You have got to talk about the ego piece with your children at their dinner table. Get them there, load up this PowerPoint presentation right here, and let's go to class. And everybody talk about, what that ego piece is for them, and how we come to, make sure that we're conscious of our identity, and we have the most healthiest ego to help us mature, right, in our identity in appropriate ways. Judy, yes, I definitely experienced that with the coaches as well. Yes, our coaches, we have got to get better. Coaches have got to get better. My son played soccer football when he was younger, and his coach was, of course, I think he may have been from El Salvador. He had no cuss words for my child out there on that field. None. He only was encouraging to my son. And as my son got older, around maybe about 13 or 14, I moved him to a team in DC United. And the coaches on the soccer team were very inspiring for my son, all the way till he won a soccer championship with that team. My baby son is on the field with these coaches that are just out of their mind. My oldest son played football too. And the coaches that he had, once he started out in Pee Wee and everything, they were inspirational and inspiring. And they knew how to let our young brothers know, look, babies, y'all here. Okay, and we gonna teach y'all everything y'all need to know to get out there on that field. And I love me some Pee Wee football. You hear me? I love me some Pee Wee football. I just want to hug them all. I just want to hug all of the babies and take them home with me. You got little girls who are playing the Pee Wee football too. I just want to pick them up and take them all home with me and just hug them so tight, and man, give them some ice cream, and listen to what they got to say. I love my babies now on that daggone field. Y'all not gonna mess with them when I'm out there. Y'all not gonna mess with my children now when they out there. Okay. And so we got to be mindful of what we're saying to our babies. This particular coach, he was coaching 7U, and he started talking trash like that to the young baby. And I looked at it and was like, oh, MG. And I saw another coach doing the same thing to 11U. And it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate. It does not work. It's not effective. And it shows that that tough love thing that they so-called themselves doing tears down a child's identity and causes their ego to not mature in a way that it should, where it comes off as humility and empathy. But of course, we got a lot of coaches who have trauma too. And a lot of their trauma is linked to the field. They also have a track coach out there. She's a woman, and she's constantly encouraging her babies to come on, y'all can do it. We can get this thing on and popping now. Let's go. But, it's something about football and basketball where the coaches are very aggressive, and it has to stop. It has to stop because it's not going to help our babies move forward in a more sportsmanship type of mindset. It can cause them to be aggressive as they're moving forward. And let me tell you something else that I heard the coach say. Disrespectful. Just this past weekend, I went to a football game in the neighborhood, right? And the coach said, you're not talking to nobody from the other team unless you're going to be violent, unless you're going to stop on them. I said, Jesus, oh my God. I just started praying. Lord have mercy. I said, this guy here needs some help. He is gone. His ego is I mean, he got a wall that Satan can't even get through. That's how vicious his wall is. And I'm a very discerning person. I know people when I see them. Okay. He got some things going on in his life that he need to go back and rectify, that he need to go back and confront, because there's no way you tell a group of 15-year-old boys that we got enough children out here doing that. We got enough 15-year-olds out here picking up us. We got enough 15-year-old girls and boys being violent towards each other and violent towards their families and violent towards strangers and violent towards their children. Okay? So let me say something to y'all. That's never the way to go. And I feel like if a coach is doing that, he need to be walked off the field. Walked off the field, literally. Never to return until he can get some help or she can get some help. Because we got sheep coaches out there that are vicious too. They be saying things out their mouths and it don't build up the sisterhood. It does not build up the sisterhood. We got our cheerleading coaches out there who be saying things that's not building up the sisterhood. Okay? So we got to make sure that when we dealing with our young people, we are dealing with their identity too. When they bring them to us young like that, we are helping to grow their ego. And we want to grow it in a way that it exemplifies humility. It helps them identify with their empathy. It helps them to know how to encourage themselves. Like the song say, encourage yourself. See, we got to get better at our dinner table. We got to get better at the dinner table. Okay? And we got to talk about these conversations. None of your parents, none of your teachers, none of your spiritual leaders, all right, and your spiritual realms, the music business, acting careers, have told you, let's talk about World Ego Day. So you heard this today from Queenafi, baby. Okay, let me let you know. Queenafi brought this conversation because I know in a vast amount of communities and racial profiles and backgrounds, let me say something to you. We ain't talk about no World Ego Day. No, we don't. We ain't talk about this. So I want y'all to know that this conversation is a very good one. Okay. And we all can learn about our ego. And we should want to learn about our ego in a more positive perspective as opposed to a negative perspective. Okay. And I want to get back to one more thing before I go. I got my information up there in case you know anybody who want to chime in and get involved or, want classes. You can definitely reach out to me to come into the classroom and confront your trauma, confront the things that you feel like you're going through to begin to learn to appreciate yourself, your identity, and make sure that your ego is being used in the right way, that you're a more healthier person for yourself. And then you be healthy for others. All right. Because a bad ego can lead you down to physical health as well. It can tear down your physical health as well. Okay. And I definitely don't want that. I definitely don't. Yes, sis. Thanks for keeping us educated and equipped, Queen. Look, sis, let me say something to you. You know how we roll, boo. You know how we roll. We having our dinner table conversation. We talking about it all. It's no limits to the conversation that we can talk about right here in the education corner. Let me tell you. Okay? The expert education corner. We're going to talk about it all because it's enlightening, it's fulfilling, it's encouraging, and it really does give us other perspectives to be able to look at and say, well, wow, okay, well, hey, what, my ego is in the way. And I need to work on how I can become more healthy in my presentation to people out in the world, to my children, to my family, to my loved ones, and making sure that my children can do the same thing, right? Because we are the leaders of our children. We are the leaders of tomorrow. And so we got to help them identify with their ego and understand what that piece is all about. Because the world won't tell them that their ego, you just got an ego. Oh, you just ego tripping. You just ego tripping, without doing dinner table conversation, without the education like we provided here today. So now you see that some people who are ego tripping, you understand where it's coming from today, right? And you understand that there is hope and there is a space where this person can come and say, you know what, I like what you said, and I want to chime into that a little bit more, right? So just opening up those doors more so that person can begin to have these beautiful dinner table conversations. I mean, absolutely beautiful. Nothing to be ashamed about, nothing to blame about, nothing to criticize about. Just making sure that we are talking about those mental health topics at our dinner tables, making sure that we are talking about domestic violence at our dinner tables, and helping our young people as they go out in the byways and the highways, right? That is the purpose of why we do what we do. All right, here at Domestic Violence Wears Many Tags. We are the educational resource. We provide you with that education, all right? Because that's what truly breaks the cycle of domestic violence. Education. It's always going to be number one, right? That education will always be number one, okay? I don't care what you got going on. The education will always be number one, okay? It's going to always be number one. So I definitely want to thank everybody for chiming in with us tonight. You know, I love you all. I love you all so much. I'm so grateful to come and just for us to talk and have this beautiful conversation and put that message out there for the people. And again, if you know somebody who is going through a situation, or, you know, if it's you think you want to chime in just a little bit more, you're not sure, you know, you want to understand better, not just only on this conversation, but whatever it is that, you know, you may be feeling in your spirit that you want to get better, please don't be afraid to reach out to Queenafi. Serious inquiries only. 202-920-9101. And let me tell you something about my young people. They like calling and not getting an answering machine. They like calling and not getting a third party. Well, where's Queenafi? You'll never have to do that with me. You'll never have to second guess where I'm at and what I'm doing. I'm on the battlefield. That's where I'm at, what I'm doing. And so when you call Queenafi, you ain't get no third party phone calls over here, and you not gonna get an answer machine. So yeah, we want to make sure that we are putting that fire out there for the community. Good evening, sisters. Good night, everyone. Thank you for chiming in today. Go in peace and love and tell somebody. Domestic violence wears many tags. Go in peace and love, my brothers and sisters. Go in peace and love. Thank you for chiming in tonight. Peace and love.
This session is no longer being recorded.
All righty. We ain't even needed to say that all loud like that. We did not need to say it like that all loud or the day going to say, really? Are you serious? I'm trying to, y'all know I like to finish out with Domestic Violence Wears Many Tags song. Let me get a little bit of young motive in my life.
This is Young Motive, and I have a topic today that's often overlooked. Domestic violence. Domestic violence wears many tags. So Queenafi, if you're listening, check it out.
Yeah.
Domestic violence, it has to stop. The kids are crying. It's coming down like raindrops. It's a behavior we can't condone. It's breaking up our happy homes. Let's get it together, talk about it, and let them know that they're not alone.
Young Motive is back With the topic of the day, it's a crucial situation that we all must pay more attention to. It's bringing families down. You know me, I know the truth, and I'ma spread it around. It usually happens at home behind closed doors, but it's spreading through high schools and college dorm floors. For the victim, it's like they got their head in the noose from all the scars of the physical and verbal abuse. Men do it to women, women do it to men. It's a cycle that happens over and over again. It's disturbing and far from bliss, and each and every child is emotionally affected by this. I think it's time we bring the dark to the light, to stop the 911 calls in the middle of the night. So I'm reaching out, and I hope it's worth my while. It's erasing the bond between man, woman, and child.
Domestic violence, it has to stop. The kids are crying, it's coming down like raindrops. It's a behavior we can't condone, it's breaking up our happy homes. Let's get it together, talk about it, and let them know that they're not alone. Domestic violence.
All right, my brother Young Motive, all right, all the way down in Atlanta, Georgia now. He grown now. He was a teenager with this piece right here. He made our organization song. And he's in Atlanta pursuing his music career. Go ahead, Young Mo. We still doing it, bro. We still doing it, baby boy.
Leaving little man shook. It's really a bad luck. How you supposed to concentrate and keep his head in the book? How's your daughter supposed to look up to dad? Don't you know that you're the first male role model she's ever had? The saying goes, a woman wants a man like a father. So what you telling her? To accept this from a man, you gotta watch how you talk to whoever you with. Words hurt, people forgive, but never forget. I guess it's up to a teen to teach these things. It's just my expression of how YMC sting. Seek a shelter from mayhem, they won't doubt you. And there's all types of programs to reach out to. No need to feel ashamed, cause it's not your fault. And this evil way of living has to come to a halt.
Domestic violence, it has to stop.